Hi fashion lovers, today we'll be cutting this dress, this jacket, this two-piece by Total Ninja Women, alright? So this is a jacket. You can see it's two-piece. The upper part is jacket, the down part is balloon skirt, okay? So we are cutting this jacket part of it. All right, so let's go. So for the calculation, you know how we do it. We'll go for our calculation first. It makes it more easy. Shoulder 16, bust point, bust, waist, hip. You can see it there. Now, if you look at the jacket is firm on the body, but not that fitted. Okay, so to be on the safe side, I am adding 3 inches to my jacket. What is the 3 inches for? I'm giving it a more ease. It's a jacket. It's not that fitted. Okay, not, when you're measuring the person, you take a proper fitted measurement. So I'm giving it that ease. That is why I added 3 inches to the waist, bust, and hip. Now, when you divide it, you sum it up and divide. Then after division, you add your sewing allowance. Now, what determines your sewing allowance is your dart, the kind of dart you'll be using. Now, the minimum you can add is 2 inches. That is if you're not going for princess dart. But if you're going for princess dart, you go for +3 to your bust, waist, hip. Okay, so these two I added is basically the minimum measurement you can add. All right, so half length 16, blouse length, you can see this is not a complete blouse, it's a hanging jacket. Okay, so it's either 20 or 22. All right, now my bust point is 10, nipple to nipple is 8. Okay, so this is the measurement we'll be working with in this video. And for this jacket, waist dart can go, but for this video we are going to be using a princess dart on the front to give it the fitting we desire. All right, so you know how we do. We'll go for our pattern paper. Like I always say in my videos, if your pattern paper is not giving you what you want, your fabric will not give it to you. Okay, so with your pattern paper you can always adjust it to achieve what you want. Then you place it on your fabric and cut. Don't be in a hurry to rush to the fabric. You can actually run it on a pattern paper before going to the fabric. So as usual, my pattern paper. So this is my pattern paper and I folded it. Okay, so I folded my pattern paper, right? According to the highest measurement, my pattern paper, this is 14 inches. Okay, all right, you can see it is 14. All right, in width. So but I'll go, first thing is to mark our button allowance. All right, now looking at the jacket in front of you, there's a button in front of it. If you zoom the picture very well, so when you have such a thing, the first thing you do is go for your button allowance first. All right, you're more like treating it like a shirt, but it's not a shirt, it's a jacket that has button, provision for button. So you go for your button allowance, which is what I marked. I marked 1.5 inches. That is what I marked as my button allowance. Okay, now what is the highest you can go for? For me, for this particular button allowance, I'll tell you should not exceed 1.5. Yes, but except you want a bigger button, because the button on this dress is tiny. If you want a bigger button, you can go more, but for this particular dress and the button size, 1.5 is very much okay. You can equally work with 1 inches, but why I went for 1.5 is this dress will be fully torn with lining. So for the lining, that is why 1.5. Okay, so when you mark your shoulder, remember shoulder 8. We go for your armhole. I'm going for armhole 7.5 because this dress is sleeveless, half length 16. Okay, and the remaining one will be our shirt length. Okay, that is it. So that is our blouse length, 22. Okay, so you rule it out. Okay, make sure it is properly ruled. Once you mark out the 3 basic lines, okay, Now, this is my bust, my waist, my hip, which is equally, this bust is actually by armhole depth. Okay, the depth for armhole depth for this jacket, remember I went for 7.5, and for my half length, remember it's 16, and for my blouse length, remember it's 22. Okay, so having marked all the lines, the next thing is to equally mark my shoulder again, right at the bust, the same 8 I used earlier, mark it properly. Then you connect it. Basically, we're trying to go for our basic blouse, basic measurements. That is what we are going for first. All right. Now, having connected our but our shoulder, the next thing is to curve our armhole. Remember, this is the front armhole. The front armhole usually curved in, goes in a little bit, okay, on the straight line. This is for the front armhole, how it is curved. After curving that, the next thing is to start marking our measurements according to the calculation, after considering the dart you'll be working with. For me, remember I said I'll be in this video, we'll be using a princess dart. Therefore, the minimum smallest minimum, the least measurement to allowance to add will be 3 inches. So I went for 3 inches as my sewing and dart allowance. Okay, so I've marked my waist. The next thing is my hip, which is what I marked. Then I'll curve, connect from the hip to the waist, connect from the waist to the bust measurement. All right, now this jacket is one of the easiest jackets to make. It is very easy once you get your measurement correctly. You can easily cut it. So having gotten to this extent, what next? Haven't gotten to this extent. Now, if you're going for a waist dart, you can mark it, but whichever one you're going for is your choice. But in this video, we are working with princess dart. Therefore, I will need nipple to nipple. Now, remember when in the measurement, there is nipple to nipple, which is 8. When you divide it by 2, it gives you 4. So I added half inches because I'll be cutting through and I'll be joining it back. Okay, so that is what I did. I'm marking my bust point, and the bust point is 10. That is what I marked there. Now, then I'll use rule to connect it properly. Okay, now after connecting the bust point, BP, that is my bust point, I need to mark my nipple to nipple there, which is 4.5. All right, mind you, where I'm placing my tape starts after the button allowance. Okay, so once I've marked my nipple to nipple, I'll connect the line straight down. You connect it straight, okay, straight down. Once you connect it straight down, you come to the waist. Now, when it comes to that intake, the waist is the center point where all darts, apart from bustiers. So right at the waist, you take half inches from both sides, you connect it. Okay, you can see what I'm doing. That is half inches in between the lines. Now what I marked now is my waist dart. If I'm to sew it, this is how I'll sew it. Okay, now for it to be a princess dart, I need my French curve to connect it. I need my French curve to connect it. Now, from the shoulder, I marked 5. That is 5 I measured from the beginning of the show down. At that point is 5. So I will have to place my French curve in a very comfortable way to connect to that 5 before using my marker to connect it so you see it. You have to place it very well. All right. Now I have connected it. This is what makes it a princess dart. The armhole dart and waist dart gives you a princess dart. Okay. Now, to avoid any shorting by the armhole, I went down by 1 inches, curved it back. Okay. This what I did now is optional. If you wish to, if you don't want, then you extend it by 1 inches again and curve. You see what I did? This is done with free hand. That way the other side of the princess dart will not be shorter. Okay, so the next thing is our neck width. Looking at the neck of this dress, the minimum you can go is 3.5. You have between 3.5 and 3 and 4 inches for your neck width. You can see it is close to the neck, but it's not choking on. It's not a turtleneck. Okay, therefore 3.5 is okay. Now for the depth you can either go for 3.5 or 4 inches. All right, I marked 4 inches and I equally marked 3.5. Let's see which one. Now if you think 4 is better, drop it on the comment section. If you think 3.5 is better, drop it on the comment section. Okay, whichever one you think is better, let me know on the comment section. Then I use my French curve to connect. All right, now if you have any question, do not fail to drop it on the comment section. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Okay, now the bottom part has to be straight. Okay, you can see how I connected it straight. That is 4, that is 3.5. Which one do you think we should go for? Which one is best? Okay, now we need to connect the slanting of our shoulder, which is what I did. Connect, slant your shoulder. Once you've done that, what next? Now looking at this jacket, you can see there is this sharp V at the front, which is actually what is making the style so different. Okay, that V at the front, looking at her a few inches above her under bust, but the minimum you can go from, or the minimum you can start the V has to be the waist. All right, now you can either go for above the waistline or this round waistline, or 1 inches below the waist, or half length, any of these two. Okay, now if you're finished sewing your button, folding for the button, you connect it this way that I just did now to where that nipple to nipple is. Or if you're cutting it right away without the button, cut this way. Okay, so whichever one, if this V is too small, feel free to increase it. Like I said, according to the calculation, to what the lady is putting on, the V little bit inches above her waist. Okay, so you're either above the waist, by the waist, or 1 inches below the waist. Whichever one you decide to go for is okay. All right, so the next thing is for us to cut. All right, watch while I cut out the sides. I'm starting with the sides. Okay, to the armhole, to the dart. So when cutting the armhole, you have to consider the 1 inches extra. All right, Let's start with the down to avoid making mistake. So watch how I'll cut the good. You can see the part of the princess dart. Now let's go for the button allowance. Cut that part open. We need to hold this down while we cut the other dots out. This is it. Now the next thing is our armhole. Cut. Place this very well. Cut our shoulder. What we have left to cut is the, you can see my round. I went for 4 inches. Remember I told you either 3.5 or 4 inches. Next is my shoulder. Okay, and this is it. Now you either finish joining the princess dart once you finish joining it, or before you cut this V. So for our V, remember it is best you finish sewing of the dart before you cut, or you can easily just cut. Okay, so we have cut the V. So this is how it is. Placing both of them together, it is giving me what I want already. So we are in line. Okay, if your pattern paper is not coming out well, you're making mistakes somewhere. All right, so you definitely see it. So if I want, I can still dip in the V. All right, it's my choice. So let's move to the back part of this dress. This jacket. Okay, the back part. Now for the back, there will be no button allowance, no zip allowance, nothing. All right, so my shoulder is what I just marked. The next thing, the same armhole, 7.5, sorry, my half length 16, and my blouse length. Okay, now let's get something for your back. You can equally work with zip princess dart, but for this video I'll be going for a normal waist dart. Okay, a waist dart, whichever one you decide to work with is okay. All right, remember this is folded into 2. There is no zip allowance, no zip at the back, there is no belt, no button allowance. Okay, so this is my bust, waist and hip. Therefore I'll mark the shoulder again, connect it. All right, give it the curve my armhole. Now this is my shoulder. Remember this back is folded into 2. What neck width did we use earlier? We used 3.5. The same neck width is what I'll mark. Now what is the back neck depth? 2 inches. The back neck depth 2 inches or 1.5. It should not exceed 2 inches for your back neck depth. All right, then you square it, you curve your armhole. This is my back armhole the way it is. All right, now you start the measurement for your back. Now I did 3 inches for my front because of my princess dart. The back I'll go with 2 inches for the sewing allowance. So what I did is add my bust, waist and hip. Okay, it's just 2 inches that I added. Next I need to slant my shoulder. Then for the neck width and neck depth, remember it's 3.5 and 3. Now the same 4.5 I use for the front nipple to nipple is what I'll use. Okay, the same way I will equally need my armhole depth, sorry, my bust point for this dart. I need my bust point because of the dart to be sewn on it. Okay, that's my bust point. And for the back bust point, I extended it by 1 inches. All right, so I've connected my nipple to nipple from bust point to my hip. Then the normal waist dart, the way it is done, this is it. I'm just drafting it out to see, but you know how we sew it on the dress when it's time to sew. So this is my waist dart. Okay, now having marked my waist dart, you can work with this. All right, the next thing I'm doing is matter of choice. By the waistline, I'll go by half inches. That is what I marked. Okay, now I will connect my rule, connect it to the neck. What I'm doing right now is optional. It is not compulsory. It is optional. But for me, I would like that back to have this fitting, especially on the on the waist. That is what I did. So this thing, this what I marked right now, it is either sewn, okay, or you cut it and join. But for the cost of the dress, I will be curving the down part of it like I curved it now. The front too will be curved this way. Now what I marked, the half inches is matter of choice. It's not compulsory. So when do I sew up what I marked? You sew it up, you don't cut it. Okay. So let's go to our curving of the arm and neck. This is how you curve it. Remember I said you either go for 1.5 or you go for 2 inches. That is the maximum. All right, then slanting of your shoulder, you cut the armhole. This dress is full lining. It is full lining. That is the only way you feel. It is not the only way you finish it. You can finish it with facing. All right, but for the particular dress she's wearing, it is full lining. But you can decide to use facing. What will prompt you to use facing is the fabric you're using, the texture. If you're using a texture of fabric that is firm, hard, okay, you can go for facing. But if you're using a kind of Ankara, I would advise you go for a full lining this thing. So this is how it came out. All right, this is how we came out. Now looking at it, it is giving us that jacket. It is giving us that two-piece. It is giving us that jacket. Okay, so this is it. Now if you have any question, feel free to drop it on the comment.